Welcome back to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James, and this week we are talking about 14 different ghost towns from around the world. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of ghost towns in the world, so I do plan on doing a part 2 to this, and because there are definitely more ghost towns that I want to talk about that I didn't get to research enough in time for this episode. So if I don't talk about a ghost town that you want to hear about, I will get to it hopefully in the next episode. And just in case, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, whatever, and suggest that ghost town to me. Now let's go visit these ghost towns. So something really quick before we really dive into this that I should have mentioned in the intro is some of these ghost towns are now tourist spots, but not all of them are. So if you do decide that you want to visit all or some of these ghost towns, please look in to see if it's actually okay to explore these places before you actually go. And if it's not open to tourists, but people are still allowed to explore, look into the proper measures to be able to explore these towns. So now with that disclaimer out of the way, we can really start going into this. And the first place we're talking about is Centralia, Pennsylvania. Now, I feel like I've mentioned Centralia in a previous episode, but it is one of those towns where, like, if you're searching haunted places or ghost towns, or even both, this one keeps popping up. So because of that, I just felt like it was worth bringing up yet again. This was a mining town, at least from my understanding, much like a lot of these ghost towns we're talking about today. Before being evacuated, it held a population of 1,000. However, in 1962, a fire broke out from an unknown cause in the coal deposits underneath Centralia. And as long as the fire and coal is exposed to oxygen, it can keep burning for hundreds of years. On top of everything else, it is emitting harmful gases. Save for about 12 people who decided to stay in their homes, the whole town evacuated in 1992. I personally couldn't find any information about the 12 people who decided to stay behind. So if anyone has any information about that, please let me know, because I do want to try to bring accurate information to you guys. So if they're still there, or if they moved on somehow, like I said, I just personally couldn't find any information on that. Just the fact that during the initial evacuation, they ended up staying. Our next town is Pripyat, Ukraine. Part of the reason why I bring this one up is because it's another one that kind of kept popping up when it came to ghost towns. But Pripyat, Ukraine is the next town over from the highly radioactive Chernobyl. I am actually working on a script to cover Chernobyl in a future episode, but just for like a quick Spark Notes version of what happened in Chernobyl, in 1986, a nuclear power plant exploded, which caused the whole town to be abandoned and left to rot. The radiation from this explosion was so strong that it also affected Pripyat, so Pripyat also ended up becoming abandoned. The radiation in this town has decreased significantly, at least compared to Chernobyl, to the point where people are able to explore this ghost town. However, prolonged stays can massively affect your health. This is one of those towns that if you do decide to explore, please do your research before you go, and be safe if you are able to get there. Just take every precaution you can, not only in research but safety. Next is Bodie, California. Bodie is one of the oldest ghost towns in America. It once housed dozens of saloons, mills, and rough crowds. From what I could find, this town was founded during like the Wild West era of America, so it doesn't surprise me that there were rough crowds. It was thriving until 2 different fires burned down the mills. Thanks to these fires, it stopped business, forcing people out and welcoming in tumbleweeds. By 1962, it became a state historic park, so you are able to safely visit this place. And Our next place is Six Flags in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, in case someone wants to say it, I'm going to acknowledge it before we move on. I know this is not a ghost town, but with how sometimes theme parks are, they almost feel like a ghost town. So back in 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, which displaced many people. And while there were many protective measures to prevent flooding and other damages, those measures had broken and a lot of damage was done. Like I cannot state just how much damage there was. And Six Flags was not immune to this storm. It had been completely submerged and, thus abandoned. Understandably, the city focused on building up other parts of the city, so now that Six Flags sits as a decaying reminder of what happened. What's eerie is the fact that there's still a sign that reads closed for storm that's sitting at the entrance of his theme park. Now, just as a side note, there are so many abandoned theme parks, and if there's any abandoned theme parks you want me to cover, please let me know, because I would love to do an episode just on abandoned theme parks. Next is Hashima Island, Japan. The island was once a thriving coal mining town until the collapse of the mines. It has a very distinctive shape, which gave it the nickname Battleship Island. I'm going to post a picture of this island because it very much is reminiscent of the game Battleship, so the nickname is well deserved. In the late 19th century, this island was one of the most densely populated places in the world. But not only did the mines collapse, they also completely ran dry in 1974, causing the workers to leave the island. Now, the creepy thing about this island specifically is just seeing how it sits kind of like abandoned. It's creepy. I mean, much like any kind of decaying ghost town that's not a tourist attraction, there's just something unsettling about it. Next is Wareham, Percy, United Kingdom. This abandoned area can be found in the Yorkshire woods and was once home to 2 manors and a church, as well as a number of homes belonging to peasants. The population slowly dwindled until it was completely abandoned shortly after 1500, after any remaining peasants were evicted. Today, the church is the only building still standing, while the foundations of the manors and other homes can still be seen. I couldn't find if there was an actual reason for abandoning this area other than just eviction. I don't know if there were fires, or I don't know if it had to do with any of the plagues or anything like that. Just the fact that the population was dwindling. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a reason beyond dwindling population, but it's just one of those things where I just personally couldn't find a reasoning beyond that. Next, we're going to the land down under in Widdenoom, Western Australia. Widdenoom was at its peak in the 1950s and 60s, and most of the business was thanks to mining, like I said, which is true for most of the ghost towns we're talking about today. However, there was an excess amount of blue asbestos, which is believed to be the most dangerous of all the 6 types of asbestos. I know it causes cancer, and that is just really bad for you. Mining stopped in 1966 due to great losses and the growth of health concerns, leading to the abandonment. In 2007, the town was erased from maps and all roads leading there were closed off, but this still hasn't stopped multiple people from traveling there to get footage and all of that. Next is Ross Island, India. The island sits in the Indian Ocean and was home to settlements in the 18th century before being abandoned the first time later in the 18th century due to extreme climatic conditions. 60 years later, it became home to administrative headquarters and a penal settlement owned by the Britishers. That was until an earthquake hit in 1941. However, it sits in ruins is completely abandoned today. As far as I'm aware, there might have been some basic cleanup done on that island, but beyond that, again, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't really been many visitors to Ross Island. Next is the island of dolls in Mexico. Now, this island is just so interesting on its own. This abandoned island is full of dolls thanks to the island's caretaker, Don Julian Santana. As the story goes, Don sadly found the body of a young girl who drowned in the lake in the 1950s. He had found a doll floating near her body, so he started hanging dolls around the island to make the girl's spirit happy. In 2001, Don himself drowned in the lake. Today it's said that the dolls are haunted by this unnamed girl and perhaps by Don himself as well. Now that is the extreme SparkNotes version of what happens on this island. I know that Ghost Adventures, or whatever Zach Baggins show is, I know they visited. I think the Ghost Hunters visited. There's definitely a lot more to this story, and again, this is another one that I am definitely planning on doing an episode about once I get to that in my list, but it's definitely very interesting. Our next stop is Okpo Land in South Korea. Much like Six Flags in New Orleans, I know this is an abandoned theme park and not a ghost town, but again, bear with me. The thing about Okpo Land, and it got abandoned for an entirely different reason than Six Flags New Orleans. In 1999, a cart on a duck-themed ride derailed and killed a girl. This was not the first death at the park, though. There was another death on the same ride earlier in the decade, so earlier in the 90s, and yet the park remained open. After the second death of this girl, though, the owner disappeared and the park fell into disrepair. It has since been demolished, but I couldn't find any evidence of anything being built on the land since then, so I'm not entirely sure if anything went there after the demolition. Krakow, Italy. Krakow was founded in 540 AD, but it is said that the oldest building dates back to the 11th century. The city survived through plagues and crimes during its centuries-long run. Its downfall was actually Mother Nature herself. Krakow suffered from a series of earthquakes in the 20th century, which made the buildings unsafe to live in, which, as you can imagine, caused the abandonment. Now we're going to the Eastern Settlement in Greenland. The settlement is a collection of two towns founded sometime in 985 BCE by thousands of Norsemen. They thrived here for hundreds of years on farms, yet by 1450 both towns were completely empty, and no one knows exactly why. The two leading theories seem to be that most, if not all, died of starvation, or they left due to lowering temperatures in the coming small ice age that occurred. The last written record of life in these towns is a wedding in 1408. Now, kind of going back to the whole theory thing, there are people who say that they were abducted by aliens, but that comes up so much that it probably could have went without saying, but I felt like if I didn't mention it, someone might say something about me not mentioning it. So that is another theory, but I kind of lean towards agreeing with the theories that they died of starvation and or left due to the lowering temperatures. Our second to last town we're talking about is Goldfield, Arizona. As the name might suggest, this town was once a thriving mining town up until 1898 when the mines dried up. A lot of people were finding gold in that area, but the town didn't stay abandoned forever. In 1921, it was renamed Youngsburg until it was abandoned yet again, this time just 5 years later in 1926. Now, much like many ghost towns, it's a tourist attraction and you can do a number of activities such as ziplining and visiting a saloon. And finally, we're ending on a mall, actually, and not an actual ghost town, but we are ending with Rolling Acres Mall in Akron, Ohio. This mall opened up in 1975 and expanded several times. In its prime, it was home to a food court, movie theater, and more than 140 stores. Rolling Acres mostly closed in 2008, with only two major retailers operating within the building. I couldn't find the names of these two major retailers, so if someone knows, that'd be great. But like I said, I just couldn't find the name of these retailers. Those 2 stores finally closed those doors in 2013. Ownership ended up changing multiple times and went through a foreclosure in 2019. That same year, it was demolished. On the Wikipedia article for Rolling Acres Mall says that the land had become an Amazon center in November 1st, 2020, and it seems like, again, according to Wikipedia, that it's still an Amazon center, but again, because I got that information from Wikipedia, that could be wrong. So if it is, please let me know. I'm not going to be mad if you correct me. So those were 14 different ghost towns from around the world. If there is one that I didn't cover but you want me to cover, please hit me up. If there is one that I did mention this week that you want me to go into more detail on, again, please let me know. I'm on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm also on YouTube, but all of that will be in the show notes. I will see you guys next week, and I hope you guys stay safe and keep it creepy.